You are indeed kicking cancer's ass, so thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Over a decade ago, I found a small pea-sized tumor in my breast after my husband had had cancer, and I worked healing him. He was supposed to die. He had the same cancer as Walter Payton, and they gave him about 6 months to live. I was already doing natural things and doing working with natural doctors since I'm 17 years old, because when I was 17, I had spastic colon and colitis, and no doctors could fix that back then. So I had to find a natural doctor to fix it. And at that point, I was like, wow, this natural stuff really does work, and quick. Everyone thought I was a witch doctor. It had sheep sorrel and turkey rhubarb and, eye of newt and bat wing and,
Sounds good to me. Light a candle.
Everybody was like, this girl, all his friends thought I was nuts, because this is 15 years ago, before really natural stuff even started to be more widely used and accepted. So, of course, I was under a lot of stress, because talking about nurturing and giving, and literally I was drained. I had a newborn baby, I had a 2-year-old, and I was redoing a home, and we just ripped out the kitchen. And I remember my husband waking up from surgery, and I said, how dare you get cancer? I just ripped out the kitchen. So, his doctor was shocked, because before he even went in for any chemo, the tumor was already shrinking. So he could have really gone natural all the way, but of course we're afraid and we're scared.
Sure.
And since Marcus Welby, MD, since watching that on TV, we think that the men in the white coats know it all, right? I mean, they know everything, and they can do it all for us. And most of us do go in, and I talk about this in my book, where we give our power away, and we go in and say, fix us, to natural doctors or regular doctors, to anybody. So I talk a lot in my book about empowering ourselves by reclaiming not only our voice, but being an active participant in your healthcare process, in every part of it. So whether it is natural or regular doctors, whatever that is. So that's the whole thing I get into in my book, what every organ, lungs are grief, kidneys are fear and anxiety, so what those organs correlate to is fascinating. And when you do put the whole, all the pieces together, it's like putting together pieces of a puzzle, basically. So I had to start from scratch and start putting the pieces of my puzzle back together again. Emotionally, the physical components, the emotional components, and why I ended up with this. And you girls talked about having support and lifting each other to a higher place. Well, sometimes when we don't feel that, and we don't get that support we need and that basic love we need, and instead we get the opposite, we can have core trauma, a crack in our emotional core. I'm sure a lot of you probably know what this is. And we ignore it for years, and then later a big trauma happens, and we're not equipped to deal with it or handle it, so we can fall under that crack. Well, meanwhile, what do I know? I'm like, okay, I go in, I have a lumpectomy, and the doctor didn't do a frozen section. And this is a huge thing in my book for women or men going in for any kind of surgery for cancer. Our bodies are brilliant machines, and they will naturally encapsulate. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure out that if you poke needles in an airtight water balloon, what happens? It leaks, right? When he called me, it was all this medical mumbo-jumbo. He was speaking Japanese, and I said, wait. Are you just trying to tell me in English, I'm going to just repeat it. You're telling me that you just opened up a can of cancer worms inside of me, and you called me 5 weeks later to tell me this? And that was it. It just bone, lung, brain, everywhere. Neck, it's just traveled and traveled. And then I go back to the work, to what I know works, which is all of that we're talking about, the visualization, I was just working this morning with meditation and my breath work and then Tai Chi. The incredible, amazing, and again, I'm the yogurt, so I'm feeling the energy coming through my hands, and all of you can do it now. You can put your hands together like this, and you can feel it. You can actually start to feel the energy between your hands and build it, and it's a chi ball.
Sarah was just telling me this at dinner. When she would sit in class, she could hold her hand out and she could actually feel the energy, and it
You
was
can,
like,
and you can
and
push
she could
it
do this
up.
when she was a kid.
And
yeah.
if you do this, and even if you have a partner at home, or it's interesting to do this with somebody. And speaking of sex, because it's really an amazing thing to do this with somebody, and not to go back to that,
but yeah.
from cancer to sex, but I think we're offered in our life, obviously, lessons that we need to learn, and I needed to learn that I am this strong. I remember my natural doctor, my guru, and I have a chapter in my book called Gurus, Guides, and Elixirs, which is one of my favorite chapters because I love a good guru. And my original guru, when I called him crying hysterically, I'd been with him since I'm 17. So I said, I could get over cancer, but I don't know if I could get over this anger. It's like my best friend. It's all I knew. I grew up in anger. I was born in anger. So I didn't know, and that's all liver. So when people come to me, clients now, I can dissect, not only by looking at them and seeing kidneys under the eyes and liver on the tongue, and if they're breaking out and they're having, manifestations from liver, gallbladder, spleen, I could see it all over somebody. If they have inflammation, whatever they're dealing with, I have an intuitive sense for somebody's emotional stuff with what's going on with them physically. So if they have a lot of anger issues or fear issues or grief issues, look at Christopher Reeve's wife who died of lung cancer but never smoked. Well, lungs are grief. So she lived in so much grief. And you'll see that a lot with people who get lung cancer. But people will always ask me, oh my gosh, how are you not on antidepressants, all that you've been through? And my doctors ask me, you're not on any drugs, nothing for anything? No, because I have learned how to combat everything with natural remedies. Everything. Anything that comes at me, I can fix it. If you get burning of the esophageal lining from chemotherapy or radiation or whatever that is, I can fix that with natural remedy. A lot of these brilliant, holistic doctors talk about mixing. Some of them don't, but some of them really do, and they know that there's so many amazing chemotherapy regimens now where it's targeted, so it's not as abusive to the body. It's not, where you're as sick. In my book, what I say is, if these doctors do not treat you with total respect and like an active participant in your healthcare and spend all the time you need to understand those concepts and to be able to ask all the questions you need, they are not the doctor for you. And if you want less chemo or slower or drawn out for weeks, most people don't even know to ask that. They don't even know that. So we don't know what to request or even ask. My book, why I wrote this book, is I had so many people calling me from all around the world saying, oh my gosh, it's too much information when the shit hits the fan, which is my first chapter, when the shit hits the fan. What do I do now? Well, you want a step-by-step life preserver. That's what you want. You don't want to read studies on rats. You don't need all that. You just want to know, what do I do now? What do I ask my doctor? How do I build my team? What do I do first, second, third, fourth, and fifth? And that's basically why I wrote the book, so that people could have that little guide in their hand and say, okay, this is what I'm following, and now I know exactly what to do and what to ask for. Well, you can go to kickingcancersass.net or Dena's Healthy You, the letter U, like university, or as in you are healthy, .com.